Jervis Tetch is one of the Batman's most famous enemies. He has appeared in video games, in animated shows, as well as live action shows, and he will be returning in the Prime Video Batman show, Batman Cape Crusader. However, they gender swapped him, and this is really disappointing me, but not for the reason that you might think. Hi, I'm Jacob Berry, and this is the StudioJake vidcast. Thank you so much for watching today. If you would be so kind, please like this video, share it out to all your friends, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, and if you're watching on the YouTube app, I would appreciate it if you would hype this video. I don't know exactly what that does, but whatever it does, it helps out the channel. Now, like I said, Jervis Tetch has been a nuisance to Batman. They didn't really use the Wonderland theme as much as you would think. That would come into play a lot later. And in fact, Jervis Tetch was even replaced with a different Mad Hatter. Though he claimed to be Tetch, he was actually a totally different guy. He's the one that had the mustache that you might have seen in a couple of versions, including the 60s Batman Brave and the Bold, and of course, Gotham. Now, Tetch would return, and the mustachioed version would become his own villain, but Tetch would make a big comeback, and he has appeared in other mediums as well, such as Batman the Animated Series, my favorite Batman. He's also appeared in the Batman Arkham games, in Arkham City, and as a bonus villain in Batman Arkham Knight. And he has always been one of the creepiest versions. In fact, Gotham kind of combined Tetch with the other Mad Hatter and named him Tetch, but he took the appearance of the mustachioed version. But it was confirmed to be Tetch in this show. One of the things about him was that he utilizes Alice's Adventures in Wonderland as sort of a theme for himself. He loves hats, he loves to collect them, and one of the things he wants to do is collect Batman's hat. Another thing he does is he can hypnotize people. Through Gotham, he used a special watch that he could focus implied to be telepathic abilities onto the person if they look him in the eye or look at his watch. In Batman the Animated Series, it was mind-controlled playing cards that when he would attach them to you physically, he could command you, at least in a limited capacity as far as giving you orders, setting up, or transmitting them, although he admitted in some shows that it was very touch and go with humans, although he really enjoyed using them on animals as well. With the popularity of the character, it is no surprise that he would appear in the second season of Batman Cape Crusader, again the Prime Video animated Batman show. Now, what's confusing about this is some people think it's connected to Batman the Animated Series because it has the same producer, Bruce Timm, but neither Alan Burnett nor Paul Dini have a huge role, if one at all, in this show. In fact, Bruce Timm is partnering with J.J. Abrams, and we all know Abrams, even though he had a great start in his career, he has certainly tumbled down. Just like M. Night Shyamalan, he used his one-trick pony, his mystery box in the case of Abrams, one too many times. That's besides the point, and if you would like my thoughts on Batman Caped Crusader, I will put a link to my Substack where I reviewed the first season in the pinned comment, so you can look at that, but I'm not here to rehash that. I'm here to talk about some stills that the production team behind Batman Cape Crusader released. We know the Joker is going to appear after being teased in the first season. We know that they are doubling down on their gender and race swaps of the series. We know that Harley Quinn is going to come back in that ridiculous costume that Bruce Timm gave her. But one particular still caught my eye, and it seemed to imply that the Mad Hatter was going to make an appearance. There is just one problem. Tell me if you can spot it. That's right, it appears that Mad Hatter has been gender swapped as a woman called Hattie, who is hosting some sort of TV show. Now, if I was to wager what is going to happen here, basically Hattie's tea time or whatever it is called, it is going to either go ahead or behind another show which is going to be hosted by a young girl named Alice, or maybe they'll gender swap Alice and make it Alec. And Hattie is going to get jealous, and this is what is going to lead to her becoming the Mad Hatter. It could also be that this is not the Mad Hatter. It could be his mother or some sort of relative that is connected to him, and they actually will introduce Tetch, but I doubt that. I actually think that Bruce Timm and J.J. Abrams in particular are using creative bankruptcy as an excuse to do another gender swap. And these things are plaguing Hollywood. Now, normally I say they're doing this because it is pandering, it's politically correct, it's woke, and I will give those reasons. And all those reasons are true. This is usually why they do it. However, it is not that it is politically correct that bothers me about the Mad Hatter. It is more about what Mad Hatter represents. And if you want to look at the Mad Hatter, definitely check out his episodes in Batman the Animated Series. They have a really good grasp on the character, as does his level in Batman Arkham City, as well as his extra bonus level in Batman Arkham Knight. They really have a good grasp of Jervis Tetch and the Mad Hatter. So besides being politically correct, why is this an issue? Jacob, tell me, why is them doing another gender swap that you can complain about on the internet bothering you so much? And it is simple. It is what Jervis Tetch represents as a villain. Now, when he was first introduced, like I said, he was just kind of another one of those dramatic villains that Batman had to deal with. But when he was reintroduced in the Bronze Age, that is when he took on more of his more well-known characteristics. They applied the Wonderland theme to him, his obsession with Alice in Wonderland in particular, with girls named Alice. Now, a very openly, shall we say, predatory version of Hatter was introduced in Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth, where he basically admits to being a map. Now, this is the only time when Tetch is identified as this, as far as I know, and I'm a big Batman reader. If I'm incorrect about that, please let me know in the comments section below. Typically, Alice, the girl he becomes obsessed with, is an adult, a blonde woman typically, just like she is drawn in Alice in Wonderland, and certainly files within Arkham Asylum seem to indicate this. But what is so freaky about Tetch is he's supposed to be sort of a watered-down version of that, right? He's supposed to be a representation of that sort of predatory evil, this idea that there's a guy out there who can force women against their will to be with him and be part of his Wonderland gang. And like I said, we see that in Batman the Animated Series. We also see that in Gotham. What sets Jervis Tetch on his villainous sort of career, if you will, is he actually has a sister named Alice, and he is, shall we say, inappropriate with her, and that is what leads him to becoming the Mad Hatter. Again, very predatory. When you gender swap someone like Mad Hatter and make him Hattie, unless you're going to introduce that, but from a woman's perspective, and there are women predators, let's be real, and they do prey on underage boys. It does happen. It is a reality. I don't think they're going to do that, though, because that's not politically correct in Hollywood. You can never have a female villain unless she has some sort of sob story that is in her background that instigated this, and it's an all man-hating. And I'm talking about Hollywood. I don't mean real life. And Hatter, especially in a modern context, is supposed to be that. He's supposed to represent that horror, that idea of helplessness that a lot of female victims feel when they're around someone like Tetch. He is not particularly strong. He's not even particularly intimidating, but it's his mind. It's where his mind goes. It's his intelligence. It's his smarts. And some writers have even tried to water that down, where they make it where he's more obsessed about taking Batman's hat as part of his collection. And I am fine with that interpretation of the character, but I just mean when you gender swap him, it takes away from that representation, that sort of mythology that there's something scary. Because ultimately, Batman's rogues are meant to represent villains and curs and all kinds of fears that society have and that Batman has to face. Ones that aren't afraid of him, despite him being the Dark Knight, the Caped Crusader, the Guardian of Gotham. He strikes fear in the hearts of villains, but a lot of his rogues, including Jervis Tetch, for a moment, they may not fear him. They think that they're smart enough to take him on. Now, usually when Batman defeats Tetch, it does get to a place where Tetch gets terrified of Batman. Because again, he's not strong, he's not intimidating, he's not even really that tall, depending on the actor who plays him, of course. But he does think he's smarter than Batman in a lot of ways, how the Riddler perceives Batman. But what makes him so evil is just this representation that he is supposed to be about the fear that female victims face when they're up against someone who is stalking them, who has an obsession with them. No matter how many times you tell them no, they say yes. Sound familiar? Maybe you know some Instagram personalities like that. Maybe you know some YouTubers who are like that. Maybe you know some people on X who are like that. Whatever the case may be, that is why I find this particular gender swap to be so sinister. My wife made an interesting observation. In light of the Epstein files getting released and we're discovering how a lot of predatory men behave, and women, I will obviously acknowledge that, but let's be real, Epstein was a dude and he catered to a lot of dudes. It seems that Hollywood in particular wants to not go there anymore. Now, they used to, especially in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. Those types of villains were very commonplace. The irredeemable, predatory villains. You know, The Crow comes to mind with Brandon Lee. The villain in that film certainly was like that. But as Hollywood's own connections to those horrible people, like Woody Allen, like Harvey Weinstein, like Roman Polanski, like Jeffrey Epstein, it seems they want to back off of that exposure a little bit because it exposes their own weaknesses. And certainly Jervis Tetch fits that archetype in a different way. He fits this idea of a predator who knows he can't strong arm women to get what he wants, but who uses manipulation, who uses hypnotism, who uses technology to get what he wants. And that is horrifying. And I personally agree that it is despicable that Prime Video or Amazon MGM Studios and the animation studio behind this, as well as the producers, are doing this. And I'm very disappointed in Bruce Timm. Now, does that mean I'm never going to watch Bruce Timm's works again? Obviously not. I'm still going to watch Batman the Animated Series and his other works outside of The Killing Joke. That was a terrible film, Bruce Timm. I'm going to give Batman the Caped Crusader a try, because maybe it's not what I think, but if it is a gender swap of Jervis Tetch to this Hattie character, I'm going to be sorely disappointed, because it shows that Hollywood does not want to call out what it should be calling out, and that is these monsters among their own ranks. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Am I reading too much into this? I don't think I am, but if you think so, please comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. I would also like to thank my Substack subscribers, Jane and Lou Aguilar. They both are paid subscribers to my Substack. Thank you both so much. It is because of you two that I can continue to do this kind of work, so thank you. And also, don't freak out, because I did cut my hair right before I filmed this video, but the next couple of episodes, my hair is not cut. And if you're wondering why there's suddenly a bat-centric background, I'll have an update for you about that in a future video. I appreciate you tuning in today. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment and tell me what you think, as I said earlier, and subscribe. If you would like to support me in the work that I do, please head on over to my Substack. It is linked in the description as well as in the pinned comment. You can subscribe there at different tiers that unlock different perks. You can also support me by purchasing one or all 4 of my novels. They're also linked at my Substack, but you can find them on Amazon. I hope you pick up one or all 4. Leave me a 5-star review. It really helps out small indie creators like myself. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on StudioJake. And by the way, I have a big announcement coming very soon. I've been living life right like I